ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, on this episode of what I like to call Beard Chat, we don't have a more qualified guest than Mr. John Petrucci. Dude, thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate your time coming on here, and we're gonna nerd out a little bit.
Absolutely.
But I want to talk about the new Liquid Tension Experiment record. I want to talk about your history with Ernie Ball Music Man and Mesa Boogie amps, because I've noticed I have one of your fine amplifiers in the back behind me.
I see that. I see you have a great setup back there.
I think your signature products have really done a lot for, the amplifiers have done a lot for, the amplifier has done a lot for amplifiers, and your instruments, your signature instruments have transcended you in a way, which is the greatest thing that anyone could ever hope for.
Absolutely.
So first, with the Ernie Ball Music Man guitars.
Yes.
When did you first see an Ernie Ball Music Man guitar? Do you remember?
I do remember, actually. Many, many years ago, I played a Van Halen model in a music store.
Okay.
I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, this is like the greatest instrument. I mean, just the way that, first of all, when pulled it off the wall, the way that it looked was just so beautiful. It was like blown away, and then the neck felt amazing, and I was like, wow, this is a really, really beautiful instrument. That's the first time I played a Music Man guitar. Well before I was with them. Yeah.
I wonder if my first introduction was seeing Eddie with his Music Man as well. I guess I had always seen the basses, but not really associated them with guitars.
Right.
So that was the first time I ever saw one as well. Do you remember how the relationship started with talking about your signature model, your very first JP model? And do you remember what you wanted? Was it an instant thing?
I totally remember it for sure. It's actually, and you'll see more about this as the months progress and the year progresses. But we're actually celebrating 20 years together, myself and my collaboration with Ernie Ball Music Man. So it's insane. That was 20 years ago. I guess the best way to describe it is I of course was familiar with them, and I actually used Ernie Ball volume pedals because that was my favorite volume pedal.
Same.
My favorite guitar player of all time was and still is Steve Morse, who is a big time Ernie Ball Music Man endorsee, and I am managed by the same person, so there's a connection right there. So when I was with Ibanez many years ago, I had all these sort of ideas that I wanted to explore as far as developing the instrument. Things that were, why can't this be here? Or could we do this or change the shape? Or I'd like to do a 7-string. And those things were just not possible at the time. So I really got the feeling like I wanted to expand and explore and get into really developing the guitar in the way that, inspired me as a player. So made that connection through my management. Actually, it was Larry DiMarzio who I called, who had nothing but amazing things to say about Sterling Ball. And he was like, give him a call, you'll love him. And I did. And Sterling and I hit it off on the phone immediately. And that was the beginning. And I have to also give credit to my former guitar tech, Mark Snyder, who Mark. I mean, he built all my rigs. Now he's a big time
he's a legend.
Mr. Wine, Red Hook Winery. Yeah. Mark, you're familiar with his career path?
I'm familiar with his career. I do not know him, but I've seen many articles in Guitar Aficionado with him. And
exactly. Yeah,
amazing.
He was actually he's a dear friend of mine, one of my favorite people on the planet, and speaking of boogie, which we'll get into earlier, Mark was actually, the way that I met him was they were doing like an East Coast boogie office. They were exploring that, and Mark was like the rep, and that's how we started. He was building racks at the time for like Vernon Reed from Living Colour, and
love Vernon.
Yeah, some other guys. So anyway, Mark was like, "Man, you want to play a real guitar?" playing Music Man. They're like unbelievable. So I have to hand it to him. And as I said, Sterling and I had this great conversation, and we took it from there, and it's been unbelievable ever since. I mean, to me, developing signature products, whether it's a guitar or an amplifier or whatever, I kind of take it from my own perspective as to what are my wants and needs. Like when I play something, what feels comfortable to me.
Sure.
Does this volume knob really need to be here because my hand keeps hitting it? Can I just move it a couple of inches? Things like that. Same thing like if you sat in a car and you're like, all right, I wish the radio was here because when I reach the
yeah.
Just things like that. And Sterling and his team were so just like on board with making it right, and there was nothing that we didn't do as far as prototyping. And at the time, Dudley Gimple, their master engineer, was the one who built my first guitars. Since, Sterling's sons have become more and more involved in the company, and Brian, of course, is the head, and Scotty, and we just have this unbelievable, relationship creating guitars together. And I think culminating probably with the Majesty that happened a few years ago. It's just been unbelievable.
Do you remember what the timeline was from initial, like, was it a, hey, how's it going? This is cool. We have a thing going. What do you want? Do you remember how that went of, did you go, okay, I want this shape, I want this? And I get the sense that you were really never told, no, we can't do that. It's literally, okay, let's figure that out.
That's 100% correct. And I don't remember exactly how much time between the first conversation and getting the guitar done, but I actually went to the San Luis Obispo factory, and a lot of R&D was done there. I knew that there were I knew like a starting point. I liked the sort of Strat style, the two horns and everything, double humbucker. That was my thing, 24 frets. So I knew certain things to get going. But as far as trying shapes and neck carves and placement of controls and things like that, you're absolutely right. They never stopped until they got it right. They never said no.
Love that.
They, their mentality is that it should come from the perspective of the artist and not, Sterling, he'll even stop me. Like if you for a second try to, will people like this? It's like, hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on.
I was going to ask that.
Will this sell? It's like it's not part of the equation. It's like if you put out something that you believe in, that you stand behind and works for you, genuinely, then the idea is that it will translate possibly to other people, and they'll get to enjoy the benefits of what you helped develop. But and I guess it's similar with music.
Sure.
You do the same thing. You're in a band. It's like you can't think too hard about, is somebody going to like this? How are fans going to think about this? No. It's like it has to come from this genuine place, because I think people see right through that, and you're not going to do your best work that way. So Sterling and his family always stuck to that commitment of creating.
Has your so your tastes have obviously evolved, and they've changed over time with the JP stuff, and then the Majesty, but the variants on the JP line they're all different from each other. Was that more of a, I want to try this, or is it like shoes? Like, okay, I have my running shoes, I have my hiking shoes, and like it was a more utilitarian approach to all the different variations of the JP?
I think that the end result is it turned into, I have my shoes, but the inspiration is, I want to try this.
Okay.
And those are the conversations that we had. Like, what if it was always like the what if, like, what if we made the fretboard flatter? Like, what would a 20-inch radius feel like, And they're like, okay. And I mean, and those guys are unbelievable. I mean, they'll engineer, design it, come up with new methods that they have to teach their whole building team and get new equipment in and stuff like that. I mean, they're not afraid of innovation. And so all those variations between fretboard radiuses, fret height and size and material. Those were all like, what if we did this? Let's try this. What if it was a chambered body? I wonder if I'd like that, you know? And some of those things kind of get filtered out. Like, okay, I didn't like that.
Sure.
You know, I preferred this. And so where we are now, you know, if you take like the JP, the original model, you take the JP15, which is kind of like the culmination of all the anniversary series, and the Majesty, they're like in the perfect state. Really.
Yeah.
So all those decisions are now set in stone. Some of them were set in stone very early on, like the positioning of all the controls that never changed, the types of knobs we used and stuff like that. But some of them were decisions along the way. Yeah, what if we tried this? What if the guitar was not all basswood? What if we did, you know, when they started to do the BFRs with tone wood combos, what would this sound like, you know, I don't know, with alder?
Let's try it.
Oh, let's try it. Yeah. And then the big thing with the Majesty, you know, let's build a neck through. All these are bolt-on guitars. All the previous guitars that we did were bolt-on. What would a neck through feel like, sound like?
So,
you know?
Were the ergonomics of the Majesty, because I would consider the Majesty a much more, the Majesty to me is a sports car.
It is a sports car, absolutely.
It's a sports car. Was that
it's right here?
Is that a result of touring? Was that a result of just time spent? Was that wanting to just take the JP further?
Yeah. I am always thinking about performance and comfort and ergonomics, like always. That's on my mind all the time when I play guitar, whether it's being on stage or being in the studio. You know, my whole thing is that the instrument should really just get out of your way and let you be the best musician that you could be. So, you know, creating something that just takes away anything that's going to be a hindrance is the goal. Sure. So yeah, the Majesty I think is the culmination of that. I mean, it takes care of everything. This is it right here.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, this is the Purple Nebula one, neck through, 3-piece neck. I mean, every thoughtful detail about the contours and the way that it sits on your body in the back and access to the higher frets and you name it. They're all based on. Yeah, they're kind of like these aha moments. So sometimes they happen when I'm on stage and I'm like, I'll go to do something like, man, that thing is that bottom horn's getting in my way when I try to do
Sterling.
Yeah, literally. And we'll talk about it and we'll make those changes. And they just all sort of been like figured out, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I feel so fortunate that I am in the position where I'm able to do that as a guitar player and work with such an incredible group of people and get my ideas, turned into something actually physical that other people can enjoy.
Yeah.
What you said before is a huge compliment. The fact that it, transcended me, like forget about me. Like it's about the instrument and creativity and guitar playing.
I've known several people over the years who will they love your JP models and your Majesty models to death. And there are a few of my buddies that they have no idea who you are or what your work has been done, but they know they love the guitar and they love the specs of the guitar and the features of the guitar, and that's all they care about. And at the end of the day, that's all they should care about.
I love that. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
So in that line of thinking, you're always evolving with the guitars, but something interesting is your taste in amplifiers has been remarkably consistent historically. You started out, I mean, you were pretty much the guy for the Mesa Mark II Plus, I would say. You obviously have dabbled in, like Road Kings, and you've done other things and tastes and flavors and tried other stuff, but ultimately your tone is pretty consistently amazing, I might add, but live and your recorded tones are Mark series. Do you think there's a reason why your amplifier tastes have remained consistent, but your guitar tastes have seemed to evolve?
Well, I mean, I guess a couple of reasons. First of all, I blame my friend Mark again. He's the one who turned me on to Mark II C pluses. It was Snyder, and he had this great collection and turned me on to the Mark series. I mean, before that, I was using tri-axis and quad preamps and things like that. And like you said, I have used Rectos and Road Kings and different boogie incarnations of boogie since I was a teenager. Same. But when I heard that Mark II C plus, it just I don't know, it grabbed me. It just goes like, what is that? It just I guess the way that the gain stage, the way Randall designed that, the way the gain stages happen, it creates this super powerful sound. Where you somehow get this dimensionality and this complexity out of the guitar distortion. It just doesn't sound like a compressed mush coming at you. Mm-hmm. It's like this highly complicated array of distortion, and it's so expressive, and so I definitely I just fell in love with that Mark style, the Mark series style, and I was really into Mark IVs for a while. Love the tones that like Lamb of God was getting, and Chevelle, using the Mark IV. So I did that for a while. But it always kind of came back to that 2C plus,
Yeah.
I guess the difference is, with Boogie, they didn't really, as much as they have endorsers, they didn't do signature amps.
Right.
So, to answer your question, there were many of my own thoughts and ideas, like, oh, I wish I had this. Could it have two of these channels instead of one of that? And could we do two EQs? Same thoughts I would have in developing a guitar, but Boogie didn't do. They didn't have signature amps, so I couldn't really do it until I begged and begged and begged, and they finally somehow I got to them, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I finally had the opportunity to let all these thoughts and ideas that I had, be incorporated into a Mark II C plus version,
Yeah.
That turned into the JP2C.
I have to thank you for your amplifier. I was on a tour with it, and I had never had so many people come up to me after every single show going, what are you plugging into, man? What in the hell is that? My live tone was never better than with the JP2C. So
that's so cool.
So thanks, man.
You're so welcome. I see. To me, that I love hearing that. That's what it's all about. It's like I have my own ideas, gear that I like, that I have gravitated towards, either that I played since I was a teenager or for at least 20 years.
Sure.
And the fact that I'm able to kind of get my thoughts and input into that, and then have somebody like yourself have such a great experience that's so cool. That's amazing. I mean, I've had that experience. I remember seeing, Pat Thrall play a gig local on Long Island, and he was playing out of a little 2C, and I didn't know what it was. It was like the greatest guitar tone I ever heard. Right. And there was a metal band from Long Island called Hitman, and the guy I think he was either playing a C plus or a Mark IV, and I was, what the hell is that sound? Like, it was always like that boogie that I know that experience, where I'm like, you want to go up to the guy, like, what are you using? What is that?
Yeah.
So I relate to that.
That's really cool. So we've all been in the world shut down about a year ago. I want to talk about the new Liquid Tension Experiment record. And, it was kind of a surprise, like, whoa, wait, what? Did you see that?
Right.
Was the new record a result of being at home and everyone's schedules cleared, or was this already in work before COVID happened?
It wasn't in the works as far as logistics being put in place and scheduling. It was only talked about. Sure. It was certainly asked about from fans. I mean, I got, my two top questions were, when are you going to do another solo album? Which I finally did.
Yes.
And will there ever be another Liquid Tension Experiment record? And so, it it was on our minds. We certainly talked about it, texted back and forth from time to time, an email would float by, hey, I just did this interview, reminded me we should do this one day. But it wasn't until, unfortunately, this horrible pandemic that shut everybody down, where everybody's home, there's no touring, there's no conflicting schedules.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, let's do this. Like, if we don't do it now, well, like, what's our problem? You know, we have all this time.
So yeah, your team were nice enough to let me hear the record before it's out. Oh,
nice, cool.
Before it's out on March 26th.
Yes.
There is a common thread with your playing and all of the music that you're involved with, whether it's Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, your solo stuff. You know, you can, when you play, I know I'm hearing exactly what you're feeling. However, with this new Liquid Tension Experiment, you guys are all world-class musicians. However, I really get the sense that you guys are still just music lovers and you're such a fan of the song.
Yes.
It's not, I mean, there's lots of shredding and all that kind of stuff. However, the new record is very musical. There's mellow stuff, there's shred stuff. The Passage of Time is my personal favorite song off the record. But is that something you guys at this point were consciously thinking of, or is it just this organic thing that just kind of happens when you start writing the material?
Right. Well, first of all, you're saying all the right stuff. So you're saying all the things that I hope somebody would get from a guitar. Because
it's not a mindless
shred
fest.
It's coming out of your mouth.
It's so musical sounding.
So thank you. You know, I guess part of that is, I mean, the whole Liquid Tension Experiment thing is that it is organic. It is based on us getting together. You know, everybody loves to play. Everybody's highly creative. We jam. We sat there for the first few days and just jammed, you know, 4 different half-hour or more long jams that we would kind of pull ideas from. So it definitely happens organically. But having said that, the focusing on the fact that there needs to be a song in there is something that's ultra important to me. Obviously, in a band like Dream Theater where there's vocals and everything, it's kind of obvious that's important. You can't just be like, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But with instrumental music, you know, and I felt this on my solo album too, on both of them, you run the risk of just like, I don't know, coming up with an excuse to solo over, like, and not actually creating music that's going to be listenable, that's going to reach somebody on an emotional level, that's going to be something somebody looks forward to, like, hey, I'm about to like cook this sauce, I'm going to put this album on, you know, like, I'm about to go for a run, like, what do I want to listen to? You know, you run the risk of like not having that connection if you don't focus on the fact that these are songs, you know? So my mentality, no matter what I'm doing, in this case with Liquid Tension Experiment, is there has to be a song in there, you know, for sure. There has to be some sort of, it's instrumental, you know, somebody has to be the voice in a certain section, you know, somebody needs to be featured. There has to be elements of, whether it's repetition or restatements of themes or form, you know, form that makes sense, almost like watching a little mini movie. Like, you know, how is this all going to culminate? Oh, that big melody from the beginning is going to come back at the end, but it's going to come back bigger than ever, and we're going to do it in a halftime, and that's going to make the first instance make a lot of sense. Those are all, you know, compositional decisions that are important. I think, again, otherwise it would just be meandering improv, and that's fun for a minute. But you know, who wants to listen to that?
I mean, yeah, exactly. There's a song called Liquid Evolution. It's mellow. It's kind of pulled back, and I found that very soundtrack-esque. And I really appreciated that. I don't know, it's kind of it's a break in the action, and then it kind of like that kind of stuff made me think, you know, this could be like a soundtrack to a movie or something like that. So it was just it's a great record. So
cool, thank you.
Congratulations.
That actually, I mean, all these guys are so creative and have so many amazing ideas. Obviously, I played in a band with Mike for 25 years. Jordan's been in Dream Theater for 20 years. I have a lot of experience with those guys. Tony Levin, this is my third record with him, and he just never ceases to amaze me. His mind, his creativity, and what instrument he's going to pick up next. A bowed electric bass or a stick or whatever. And that Liquid Evolution side that he on the first album, I think it was Osmosis, he kind of busted out that it's almost like it brings me back to like that Peter Gabriel thing that he's such a big part of on the So album and everything. So I love that side. And that song is actually a snippet from a jam. Oh. That's one of I talked about these sort of 30-minute long jams that we did. The guys that started a jam, I was like probably getting a coffee or something. Like I missed the first 3 minutes. And then stepped in the room and exactly. What are you guys doing? And I joined in and we did the rest of the jam. But when we listened to the beginning part, where it was just kind of starting to starting to percolate, I guess.
Sure.
That's cool. That vibe is cool. That would be one of those really good Osmosis-ish moments on the album. But there was no guitar. So I just said, guys, plug me in, and I just improvised in a live room over that, and that's what you're hearing. What
is jamming on your guys' level like? I know what it's like for me and mortals, but what is it? You guys aren't you're not going, that's a C, Tony. Right? You're just and he's like, cool, got yeah, okay, cool. Does it go fast?
Those guys are quick. They're quick. I came to the conclusion a long time ago that improvisation in that setting is all about listening. That's your listening skills. Obviously you need to have an ability on your instrument to translate what you're hearing.
Sure.
And join in. But man, if I start to latch on to something, let's say Mike's doing a groove and I'm doing this guitar riff and it's moving around, you can hear Tony thinking within seconds. He has the notes, and the same with Jordan. I mean, it's insane. In fact, Jordan and I do this funny thing that we do it at sound checks and sometimes where I'll just improvise free-form guitar, not thinking about any key, constantly going in and out of keys, changing notes, and he listens and he puts chords to it in real time. So what it ends up sounding like is that I'm this really hip improviser that knows how to play over anything. It's actually the reverse. And we'll do that to have fun. So yeah, it's about ear training, listening, and just having also a lot of experience and knowledge to be able to go, oh, this is Latin? Okay, I see what you're doing there. I'm going to go bust into this feel, whatever that may be.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
really
cool.
A lot of fun.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. We are right at the 30-minute mark, but I would be skewered by the internet if I didn't ask you about an Instagram photo that you posted that looks to be like an 8-string JP model, maybe, I don't know. Is there any plans ever to release an 8-string JP model?
Well, first of all, the funny thing about that photo is okay, I'm going to just be tricky and I'll just have the headstock on the side. I wonder if anybody will notice. And it was how stupid can I be? Of course, it's the very first thing, 8-string. So yes, there will absolutely be a Majesty 8-string. In fact, it is already in the records. It's already on the new Dream Theater album that we're working on now.
Oh.
I did what my plan was, got the guitar, and the first song that I wrote on the 8-string is the song that we wrote together for the new Dream Theater record. So people will hear it on the new record when that comes out later this year. It's in a prototype stage.
Cool.
I have a couple of them here, and they're awesome. It is a Majesty 8-string. We're doing everything right. We did a lot of research.
Yeah.
Fan frets and all that good stuff. Yeah. No trem on this. We're doing everything right. Again, it's going to be from my perspective. as far as what's comfortable to me.
Sure.
And that's a learning curve with this because I never played 8-string before.
Right.
You know, so I can only come from my own, like, oh, you know, I can't reach that note. Could we change that or whatever? And so hopefully it'll be another thing that people get to enjoy and make music with.
Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out, and I really appreciate your time. Everyone, go check out the new Liquid Tension Experiment record on March 26th, please. It's legit awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And with that, we're gonna get out of here. See you, everyone. If you liked the video you just watched, please consider subscribing. And if you want to further support me and what I do, consider using some of the affiliate links down below in the description of this video. Go on over to Sweetwater, buy yourself something, and help me out at the same time. It's a win-win for both of us.